Hello, and welcome to our December 2019 webinar about what's new in FileCatalyst Workflow 5.1. My name is John Tkaczewski. I'm the president and co-founder of FileCatalyst, and you can follow our blog at filecatalyst.com/blog, and also look at the past webinars where we discuss all different topics related to file transfer and FileCatalyst, latest versions, tips and tricks, and so on. So today we're going to be really making some announcements about what's about to be released in FileCatalyst Workflow 5.1. We are in early December. We're hoping to release in the upcoming few days the 5.1 release, and I just wanted to go through some features. So before I jump right into the demo, I just want to give those customers that are existing customers and new customers a little bit of developments, what happened in FileCatalyst Workflow product line over the last two or 3 years. So November 1st, 2019, so just recently, we dropped support and discontinued version 4.9.9 of Workflow. That was the last version that contained Java applets. The reason we did this is that Java applets are not widely supported anymore. We had to drop support for it and move to a new tool called Transfer Agent. So everything in the FileCatalyst Workflow 5.0 or higher uses Transfer Agent. We revamped the look and feel in 5.0 as well. So everything's based on HTML5, Bootstrap 4, so everything's mobile friendly. Everything looks brand new, fresh, and nice. That means that if you're upgrading from an older version 4.9.9, you might have to do a bit of templating work to bring your template that you had in line with the HTML5 Bootstrap 4 templates that we've built in 5.0. We also dropped support for third-party FTP servers. There were many reasons for that. One of them was security issues. We couldn't secure regular FTP transfers properly, so we had to drop that support. 373 server is required in 5.1, so if you are running an older direct server, you cannot, at this point, you will have to upgrade the direct server in order to upgrade to Workflow 5.1. And as I mentioned, the HTML templates are no longer supported. We have a brand new page templating mechanism based on HTML5 and Bootstrap 4, so you will have to do a bit of work. Finally, if you're upgrading to Workflow 5.1, we dropped support for Oracle Java. We only now support OpenJDK 8. We prefer Corretto. That's our preferred one. Corretto is an Amazon build of OpenJDK, and we recommend OpenJDK Corretto as our main target. Also, Tomcat 9.0.x is required in 5.1. So again, if you're running on older Tomcat, you'll have to upgrade your Tomcat, your Java, and then you can drop the new WAR file. So let's jump right into the big features that we've added in Workflow. So this webinar covers versions of Workflow 5.0.4 and 5.0.5, as well as 5.1. So there's a number of things we've done since last webinar, which was in November 2018. So first big feature that was added in 5.1, it's request files here. So as you can see here is a small screenshot of FileArea in Workflow. End user can navigate to any file area, and if they have a permission to do so, they can click on this new button that appears there, and this allows them to request files to be uploaded to the specific selected path in the file area. So the link is just sent out directly to the uploader. Uploader clicks on the link, and all they have to do is just drag and drop some files in there, and the files will appear in this directory. And of course, appropriate email notifications happen then. So this is sort of a new big feature that we added that adds a lot more flexibility to Workflow and how to create file requests. Another big feature that we added here is called ability to set multiple languages. So traditionally, workflow was unilingual. We did provide you a language file in English and in French, but you had to load up one language for everybody, all the users. In 5.1, based on accept language request header parameter, you can load multiple languages and serve them dynamically. With this, we also added a way to set different visible properties of fields and order forms from languages as well. So for example, you have a field request more information text area. Well, you can reference that more information string in a field from a language file. And then if you have multiple of these language files, they'll just load dynamically from there. Some other big features we've added in 5.04, we made the transfer agent install optional on download. So imagine when a recipient of files gets a link to workflow to download files. Before they were forced to install T8 to get access to the files, the new version shows them HTTP download links that they can download with a banner that suggests to install transfer agent to get acceleration, but it's not required to access the files. Another big feature we added in 5.1, and that's Catalina support. So macOS X 10.15 came out in November. They changed their security model. macOS changed the security model quite a bit, which made our transfer agent not installable on macOS 10.15. So we corrected that. So new macOS X 10.15 is fully supported in Workflow 5.1. We added also job file rename mask in 5.05, I think. And that allows the user that does an ingest type of job, the user that creates an ingest type of job can upload files, and then based on configurations in Workflow, the system will rename the files that were uploaded by the user. Import-export of users to CSV files is also was added. So let's say if you're deploying the solution at a brand new facility and you have hundreds of users to add, you can make yourself a CSV file, add them there, and then do a one big import, and that works as well. We added a new property, data URL, to field. So those are maybe not familiar with workflow. The way it works is that you create fields, you define fields, and then you add these fields to order forms in workflow. So now we added a new property that the selection choices for selection or text can come from an outside web service. So this is very useful to make more dynamic order forms where you really need to change the selection of content of dropdowns depending on the user. Finally, for those that use our system with strict security, especially for those that have very large deployments, we added a REST API support. So traditionally, the strict security, there's a protocol that workflow and direct talk to each other. When strict security is enabled with respect to creating temporary users for uploading and downloading, not to expose the entire server file directory system on the server. And this protocol has been improved by a lot by the speed of creating these users and virtual files for uploads, downloads is like 10 times faster and much lighter now with this REST API. So again, I'll go through more of the features, detailed features through our release notes in a minute, but this kind of gives you the big picture. I'm not going to go through all the nitty-gritty details of what's in our release notes for the last 3 versions since the last webinar we did. But I just wanted to make sure that you're familiar that if you go to support.filecatalyst.com, you can access the knowledge base article, which is really the FileCatalyst Workflow release notes. And in there, you have all those details if you need to find something more pertaining to your specific deployment. These are the release notes, so you can see everything is broken down by version. So here at version 5.1. As I mentioned, we're at this point of recording of this webinar. We haven't released it yet, but it's coming up in the next few days. So that's why I don't have a date here yet. But by the time you'll be looking at this, there will be a date and versions. So this kind of gives you all the features. I already outlined the big features, but there's a lot of smaller things we've done, like fixing backwards compatibility with IE 11, for example, Internet Explorer 11. We fixed some security issues that we found over the last year. We made a selection of files from FileArea more visible. In 505, we added things like rejecting files containing reserved characters in a file name. So imagine this pertaining specifically to macOS users, where if a macOS user, they are allowed to use any character in their file name, including like things like /, less than, greater than sign. So these type of file names, of course, will break when you upload them to a Windows or Linux-based system. So we added a checks for this. The big one thing we added as well is TLS 1.2. I don't know if you're familiar with everything going on the security side, but TLS 1.2 is the de facto golden standard now for security. And if you want to do business, especially in the European Union, for example, you got to upgrade to TLS 1.2. So this is something we've added as well. And in 504, we added things like, that FileArea data usage. So on the main overview page, you see that we made the band IP work better based on blocks and ranges, not only subnet masks. So anyways, the point being is that there's a lot of more features than what I'm just saying here, the 3 or 4 big features that I listed. And I encourage you to go to our release notes to go through those and find more things. So with any further delay, let's get started on some of the demos here that I wanted to show you. So we're going to go through a quick demo of request files here, multiple language support, TA optional, install optional, import export of users, and data URL. I will go through all these demos very briefly. By the end of this webinar, you will have a very good idea what these new big features are. So welcome to FileCatalyst Workflow. This is the standard login screen. As you can see, maybe we updated a little bit our logo. We were launching, we're rebranding a little bit here, launching a new logo and a new look and feel to FileCatalyst brand. So this product will also have that. As you can see here, nothing changed here really on the login page, except now you have a new here, received a request to upload files, enter request number here. So this kind of works like the getting a tracking number to download files. Here you're getting a tracking number to upload files. So let's log in here and show you how this works. So I'm just going to log in as administrator. When you log in first as administrator, you see the familiar overview page. For those that are on older versions, now you get FileArea usage as well provided in your overview. And so to enable, for those that are installing Workflow for the first time, you'll have request files functionality already enabled. For those that are upgrading, you'll have to add it and enable it, as it doesn't come enabled by default for all the users. So to add request files, what you'll have to do, you'll have to go to Modify Configuration, go to Order Forms, and there's a new button here called Add New Request Files form. So I'll call this form Request Files. And I'm going to click on this button. This creates a new order form, which now you can, if you want to assign this new functionality only to Power specific users, you can make this order form private and assign it to a group, and then make specific users member of this group so they can have this functionality, or you can have it open for system-wide. Also, there's ability to make those requests available only for a certain number of days. So you can say, let's say here 10, and then any request sent out to upload files is valid for 10 days. After that, it expires. For my demo purposes, I'm going to leave it as open, so it will work as well. It will work forever. Another thing you can do is you can force form upload on request files here. So imagine when the person requesting files sends out the email. The uploader gets the link to click on files, and when they click on that link, they'll go straight to form upload. They will not be prompted to install transfer agent, which again, for some deployments where TA is not possible, this might be useful. In some other cases, it's probably better to leave it like that, as the user then can make a choice whether they want to have transfer agent installed or not. Of course, when they have our transfer agent, everything is accelerated and they can add multiple files. It's a lot easier. So you can also give it a display name, how you want to call it. So here, in this case here, I'll just leave it as blank. Last thing here, you can go to the form designer, just like you could do with other forms that you can do, and you can make things required, less required, add some specific custom text if you want to. So in this case here, maybe I'll just, because this is a test, I'll just add a nice space there. So I'll save this. So now my new workflow 5.1 is ready for request files here functionality. So let me just log in here as an end user now. I'm going to go to FileArea, and I'm going to click on my file. Again, this applies to all file areas, this icon. Group file area or file area. I'm just going to click on my file area at this point to get this working. This will launch my transfer agent application. And as you can see here, this is the familiar interface of my local files on the left, my remote files on the right. I can drag and drop files in between. And now I can browse as well to a directory, and I have this new icon right here, request files here. So let me just, I'll make a test file. I'll just call it file request. I'm going to navigate into this directory, and I'm going to click this button. This takes me to specify what's my uploader's email. So I'm going to just enter here my john@filecatalyst.demo account, and there's no uploading files required at this point because it's just a request, right? So I'm just going to click on finish. So what's changed here? So now I'm back into my view jobs, so I can see my form. So of course this was a request file, so it shows me the form. I can also add a field here to specify request files path. So this will actually show me that the request came in from file area, my file area, and the directory's file request. So like this, I can very easily, at any time I can delete, if I delete this request, that link stops working. Or if the system is set up to expire the link after, let's say, 5 days, then this link stops working after 5 days. But there's few ways to change that. So now let's go into my, I'm going to log out here, and now I'm going to put on my hat of a person that was requested to upload files. So now I have my hat as a person that was requested to upload files. So you can see here the requester gets an email that you have received a request to upload file package from John TK. All I have to do is it gives me the name of the person who is requesting it and a link to click on. Alternatively, I can take this tracking number, go to the logon page, and enter it through the link on the logon page as well. So if I would just do this, I can go enter request number here, and then for the upload request, and I can also go get into it that way. So in this case here, I'm just going to click on the link. And this will bring me up right away to the upload page. So what's happening here? So I chose not to force HTTP, so I'm into the transfer agent upload, and now I'm just selecting the files I want to upload because I was requested to upload some files. Let me just add a couple of files here. I can also, at this point, if I don't want to use transfer agent for various reasons, I can switch to a basic uploader. Or, as I mentioned before, you can force the basic uploader to be always on for certain use cases. So here I'm just using the basic HTTP form uploads. There's no acceleration, of course, but I don't need any plugins. So this fires off an email, so file transfer complete. It gives me a transaction number. And at this point, as an uploader, I'm done. So let's take a look at what email message. We got an email here confirming that to the user that a new job was submitted. We get a specific email that the sender, the uploader, has emailed me files. This is a regular job notification just to kind of make sure that I know what's going on. This one is a notification that new files have arrived into my file area. And this is the administrator email because I'm kind of, one user does everything here, but normally you wouldn't see that. You would just see this kind of goes to the admin. So now as a recipient, so now the requester requests files, the uploader uploads files, and now the requester can download the files. So to get to the files, I have this email. I just log in, go into my file area, and I will have my files here. So of course I requested them to go into file request directory, so they're here. So let's move on to the next demo, multiple languages. Multiple languages demo will be quite simple here, really. What I'm going to do here is, again, I'm going to go to our login page of Workflow. I'm going to log in as super administrator, and I'm going to show you how to enable multiple dynamic languages. So I'm going to click on Modify Configuration, and by default, what you will see here is select a language, add a new language file, or default. So default is what the application resources of properties used to be in the previous versions, and that will get ported when you upgrade. But now, however, you can add more languages. So we have the default one, and I'm going to add a new language file here, and I'm going to call this, I'm going to select French here. So I'm just going to go down to French. You can go down to even as details, like if you want to have French from Quebec and French Canadian or French Belgium. I'm just going to select French because this is the broadest French selection. And this right away brings me in here. By default, every new language file you load will show you English defaults. So now you can either translate it, or you can go into the language file here. Once you save it, you can load default Français here for the French one or English. So these are the two that we kind of ship it with. Anything else, you would have to make your own personal translation on it. So now I have two languages selected here. I have my French file, and as well as have my default, which is English. So now if I go here and I refresh the page, I'm in English. However, I've also set up a second browser using an extension, my Firefox. I downloaded an extension called Modify Headers. I overwrote my accept language header to FR. And if I open up this in my Firefox with preset as French, you can see everything becomes French now. So this is like right now I'm running dynamically English and French from one application. So this is one aspect of it. The other aspect of multilingual support is ability to preset specific headers. So specific properties in fields and in order forms. So let me give you an illustration here. I'm going to create a custom entry here. Call it AAA English. Well, let's say I want to put AAA in there so it shows up always in the front. and I'm going to say order form name. And I'm going to call it order form name dot English equals so I'm going to call this here, this field, AAA order form name dot English, and it's just a custom string I added into my default language. And now I'm going to go into my French one, and I'm going to make the same entry, but here I'm going to call it dot. I guess the EN is not required here because this is the French one. So I'm going to say here nouveau upload. So the French one will, I'm going to call it nouveau upload. I mean, you can call it whatever you want as long as the header is the same. So all I have to do is just remember this key, and I'm going to save it here. So now my English and my French have a custom entry. Now I'm going to go to my order forms. I'm going to go to my distribution, and I'm going to, instead of display name saying distribution, I'm going to say that key that I created. You don't have to have an extension in ENFR. It's just really, as long as you have the same key across all your language files, this will work. So now if I log out here and I log on here as a user, click on new job, you can see here new upload, because that's what it was in the English, in my default language file. However, if I go into my French one and I log in here, I'll see nouveau upload. My apologies, I misspelled nouveau, but that was just this is an example that I wanted to give you. So that concludes the multilingual support with dynamic language. So these properties you can set up in the same fashion for anything visible to the end user. So in order forms you have a number of visible fields. For example, this is display name. If you go to form 1, you can add information here in your HTML fields, and then they will load dynamically from each corresponding file. You can apply the same concept into your fields, anything that's visible. So help text, display label, help button. This all could come from a different language file, so everything is dynamic as you're working with it. This can also apply to job status fields. So if you go here, you can put language entries, so it matches accordingly. Of course, emails don't have English or French. For emails, I recommend that you ship them out in all the languages you would expect. So let's say if you need to have a bilingual solution, English and French, make your emails English and French, because when someone receives it in their inbox, we don't know at that point what's their preference yet. So so emails should be in all the languages required. Or maybe you make them only in English, and then the rest of the website is more translatable. Next thing on my demo is show you how make TA install optional works in Workflow. So for this, I had to do a couple of things. I had to send myself first a distribution job that I already done, that I already done before I started this demo. And I also needed to make sure that my existing TA here that is already running is shut down. Of course, the end users will not have to do all of that because they will not have TA installed, and their browsers will not be cookied. But I'm kind of showing you, for those that already have an existing workflow solution, how they can test and review this. So TA has to be shut down. Next thing what they have to do is they have to go to their web browser, go to application security here, and delete local storage here. Under local storage, delete all the local storage options, because otherwise web browser TA, whenever TA starts, web browser remembers it and then automatically attempts to start it. So you're not going to get a real feel for what the end user will see. So this is done. Now I'm going to go back to my email here. I already sent myself some files. You can see here I sent myself a few files. All I have to do is just click here. And this, give it a minute. And this is the new default look when the end user recipient that received files sees. So as you can see, they can download each file manually just by clicking on the links here. And this downloads the file into their downloads directory or whatever that uses just HTTP. And there's a recommendation here. Want to download files with acceleration using FileCatalyst Transfer Agent? Click here to download. If I click on download here, this will prompt the install file to be installed. And once I have the install file, it will start launch automatically. Or I can just go here. If I know I already have it, I can just launch it. And the transfer agent will start. And then I'll have a slightly different look because transfer agent is already running. So I'll get download all files button that will download everything in one go. It will show me a download path where my downloads will be segmented under the downloads folder, or I can download each file individually as well. That's also possible. So here I'm just going to click on download all to show you how this works with transfer agent, but this gives you the idea of what the recipient sees. So again, transfer agent, no more required on downloads unless the user wants to do acceleration or multiple file download. Users, imports, and exports. So for this demo, I already made myself a CSV file that I can import. The file is here. This is a CSV file, so it's a text file. I'm opening it with Excel to kind of give you a little bit nicer formatting, but you can see you have your different username, password. There's several rules when you're importing and how things get imported. I would encourage you to read the help for this. The big one is the password handling. So for example, here I have an encrypted, salted, and hashed password that I'm importing. So this is if your user's already, if you know your user's password. However, if you don't set this, you could have the system set a random password and email each user asking them to go log in and reset their password. So this is something also is possible in here. But I have a few users already created here. So all I'm going to do is just log in as init, 5ace, my super admin password. And I'm going to go to manage users and import export. So here you have a choice where you have to select the CSV file you want to use. So in this case, I'm going to grab my CSV file. I can delete users that are not in CSV or update existing users, and I can start import. Once my import is complete, you'll see how much time the process took, which users were imported, which were rejected, and for any reasons that you might see this. So now if you go into manage users, you can see I have a number, much more users. Oh, if we're working with groups, if you want to create automatically groups, the import utility allows you that. So as long as you assign a user to a specific group, so this is the user type code, and then you can automatically assign the user to a specific group. If the group doesn't exist, the import utility will create that group for you. Last demo I wanted to show you today, maybe perhaps not much of a demo, but just review the functionality, is the data URL. So when you create your fields in Workflow, you can now go to modify job data fields, and you can create. Let's see here. I'll create a new drop down. Just want to show you the drop down example. Drop down. So you can create a drop down, which then you can use in many different order forms. So this creates your drop down, and you can now edit a list here and add, option 1, option 2, and so forth. So I created here a new field called dropdown. I can add this dropdown to any order form, whether it's ingest or distribution. I can have the value selected here, control as well where files get uploaded. This selected value can go into a JSON or XML file for backend processing as well. But there's a new option here called data URL. So data URL allows me to, instead of getting the options from statically from what I defined here, I can get these options. I'm just going to click help here because that's sort of the best way to explain it. If you look at the data URL here, it's explained here. You can make the options fetch from another web service. So you would just specify the URL here. You do have some replacement tags, like for example, username, order form, field name, field type, and dependingly what you pass to this web service, let's say you pass it a username, the drop-down options will be different for this user. And this gets driven from another web service. It could be a REST call. It has to be another web service running somewhere on the web. So Workflow then will call this web service, will pass these dynamic fields, and that web service will then decide what options get inserted into this drop-down versus just being statically. Same applies to text fields. I can also set a data URL for text fields. So this only works right now at the moment with select and text fields, as well as text area fields. It as well works with calendar features. So you can set it pretty much for any type of an option here. So there's not much of a demo here because you need that web service set up, but there's a way to dynamically populate. Again, this just creates more ways for you integrating workflow into your backend procedures. So processes, so when a user uploads or submits data, the dropdown is pertaining to them, not necessarily static across the entire system. So this concludes my webinar. Thank you so much for attending and watching this. I hope you will download and enjoy Workflow 5.1, or if you're considering upgrading, this will give you a good idea what's in the latest version. There's some, as you can see, very useful features. And I hope in the future to hearing your feedback on your experience with FileCatalyst Workflow. Again, feel free always to leave feedback on our website or contact our support team if you have questions about it. So thank you very much. And for those that are in Northern Hemisphere, well, even Southern, happy holidays or happy winter, and see you next time.